Good morning. My name is Margon from the Green Team, and I am here to tell you a story. This story is about a little pine tree, and this little pine tree grew up in a huge big forest, just like this one. The pine tree, however, felt quite small and insignificant. When he looked up at all the big trees, he thought, it would be so nice to be one of those big trees, and then people and animals would notice him. One day, a carriage went through the woods. They could hear the horses' hoofs from far, and the carriage was made of gold and had beautiful windows, and it all shimmered and shined in the sunlight. The little pine tree thought, wow, if only he had needles made from gold instead of the boring green needles that he had. And that night he wished, and a little woodland fairy who made wishes come true heard his wish, and the next morning when he woke up, his pine needles were made from gold, and he shimmered and shined in the woodland, and all the animals and the trees were bowing down towards him, and he felt very special indeed. However, word soon got out that there was a pine tree with gold needles in the forest. And many people came and took the pine needles. So by the end of the day, there was no golden needles left on the pine tree. Made the pine tree very sad. And he thought, well, maybe gold was too precious. Maybe. And then he remembered that the carriage also had beautiful glass windows that shimmered and shone in the sunlight. And he thought, if he had maybe needles made from glass. They weren't as precious as gold, but they would still look beautiful in the sunlight. So he wished for needles made from glass, and the same fairy waved her wand, and the next morning when he woke up, he had glass needles, and they were beautiful, and the sunlight shone on it, and it reflected, and he sparkled, and he felt very special indeed. And again, the animals and the trees bowed down and to look at what this beautiful creature was. And it made him feel very special. By the afternoon, the wind picked up, and the wind was moving through the trees, and all the needles were hitting each other, and they all broke and fell onto the ground. And by the evening, instead of having glass needles, all the needles were shattered on the ground. And again, the pine tree was quite sad. And he thought, well, what kind of leaves could he have instead? And then he saw some beautiful green juicy leaves, and he thought, that would be lovely. And again, and he wished for beautiful green juicy big leaves. And the next morning he woke up, and again his wish came true. And he looked around, and there were the most beautiful, soft, juiciest leaves ever. Many animals thought so too. Little rabbits came to nibble, and deer and caterpillars burrowed through his leaves and ate lots of holes. So again, by the end of the afternoon, instead of having beautiful juicy leaves, many of them had holes in them. They were nibbled, they'd fallen off, and he wasn't happy. And he gave a big sigh, and he thought, you know what, maybe I was better off having just the needles as I had before. And he wished for his needles to return, and the fairy granted him that last wish. And when he woke up the next morning, the little pine tree had his pine needles back, just as he was, and he was happy. And the little pine tree grew and grew, and he grew bigger and bigger and bigger and taller, until many years later, he was the tallest tree in the woods. And he felt very special. So maybe next time when you walk into the woods, have a look out for the pine tree. Maybe the pine tree is a small tree, or maybe it is one of the big magnificent trees in the forest. Also have a look at what other leaves you can find and how they're all different shapes, different colors, different sizes. And especially look out for that pine tree that's now the magnificent tree in the forest. Thank you.